From a London safe house, a digital ghost launders a $6.7 billion crypto fortune. In a clandestine meeting in Georgia, a deal is struck for weapons-grade uranium. From a Paris museum, a lone operative steals a czar's priceless gold. These are not isolated crimes. They are the bold operations of a global crime wave, all linked by a single startling denominator: the involvement of Chinese nationals in organized crime. This raises a chilling question. Are these merely the acts of sophisticated criminals, or are we witnessing the symptoms of a systemic crisis spilling across the globe? The Dragon Cartel, trading wildlife for poison. According to a February 14, 2025, investigative report by CBC News, a new criminal hybrid known as the Dragon Cartel has perfected a sinister barter system operating through the bustling ports of Canada. The commodity at the heart of this trade is the swim bladder of the totoaba, an endangered fish from the Gulf of California. Dubbed the cocaine of the sea, these bladders are so prized in traditional Chinese cuisine and medicine that they fetch up to $80,000 per kilogram on the black market. The CBC report, citing a memo from the Canada Border Services Agency, reveals the chilling nature of the trade. Mexican cartels, who control the poaching of the totoaba, are not selling the bladders for cash. Instead, they are trading them directly with Chinese organized crime networks for the precursor chemicals needed to manufacture fentanyl. It is a closed-loop economy of death. One endangered species is being systematically destroyed to create the ingredients for a drug that kills tens of thousands. Canadian ports, particularly Vancouver, have become the strategic nexus for this exchange. The Mexican journalist Luis Horacio Naira explained to CBC that Vancouver's position connecting West Coast ports to Asian markets provides the perfect infrastructure for these illicit trades. The totoaba bladders are smuggled north, hidden in legitimate cargo containers filled with frozen fish and squid, or concealed in spare tires and gasoline tanks. In return, the chemical precursors flow south. This poly-criminal enterprise demonstrates an unprecedented level of collaboration and sophistication, creating a supply chain that is both devastatingly efficient and incredibly difficult for authorities to intercept. The Paris Gold Heist, a surgical strike on history. While Paris slept on the night of September 16, 2025, the quiet halls of the city's Natural History Museum became a crime scene. According to a detailed report in Le Monde on October 21st, a lone figure, moving with unnerving confidence, spent 3 hours inside the supposedly secure building. Security footage later revealed the intruder entering shortly after 1 a.m. and leaving around 4 a.m. This was no smash and grab. It was a surgical operation. The thief came prepared with an arsenal of industrial tools: a grinder, a blowtorch, screwdrivers, gas cylinders, and saws. With the shriek of the grinder muffled by the museum's isolated location, the operative cut through 2 thick steel security doors. Then, confronting the final barrier, a display case made of reinforced glass and wired with alarms, the thief deployed a high-temperature blowtorch. The intense flame melted a hole straight through the glass, neutralizing the advanced security systems without triggering a single alert. When staff arrived the next morning, they found a scene of quiet devastation. Gone were nearly 6 kilograms of native gold, valued at approximately $1.7 million or 1,500,000 euros. But the true loss was incalculable. As Le Monde reported, the stolen artifacts were frozen moments of human history. A piece of gold from the Ural Mountains gifted by Tsar Nicholas I in 1833, a relic from the California Gold Rush, and a stunning 5-kilogram nugget unearthed in Australia. The international manhunt ended abruptly 2 weeks later, on September 30th. The suspect, a 24-year-old Chinese woman, was arrested at a boarding gate in Barcelona, moments from flying to Shanghai. Inside her luggage, investigators found the damning evidence: nearly 1 kilogram of melted gold. The history, the form, the story, all of it had been deliberately erased, reduced to raw bullion. The heist was for the crucible. The uranium plot, a black market nuclear deal. If stealing the past was audacious, the next incident threatened the future. Just 5 weeks later, on October 25, 2025, A far more sinister plot was thwarted in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. A Reuters report published by CNN detailed the arrest of 3 Chinese citizens by Georgia's Internal Security Service in the capital, Tbilisi. They weren't after gold or jewels. They were there to buy 2 kilograms of uranium. The transaction was a clandestine deal straight from a spy thriller. $400,000 in exchange for nuclear material. According to Georgian officials cited in the report, the buyers planned to smuggle their purchase out of the country and transport it to China via Russia. The arrests highlighted the terrifyingly real black market for nuclear materials left unsecured after the fall of the Soviet Union. The 3 detainees now face up to a decade in prison, but their capture raises a chilling question. For whom were they acquiring the raw ingredients for a potential weapon of mass destruction? The New England network, infiltrating the system. A July 14, 2025, expose from the Portland Press-Herald pulled back the curtain on the true sophistication of this enterprise, revealing how these groups have moved beyond simply hiding in plain sight to actively infiltrating and corrupting legal, state-regulated systems. The U.S. Department of Justice indicted 7 Chinese nationals, including the alleged ringleader Jian Chen, for running a multi-million-dollar network of illegal cannabis grow houses in single-family homes across Maine and Massachusetts. But the most alarming discovery was how they operated. Chen, and another key operative, Yu Xiong-Wu, had successfully obtained legal licenses from Maine's Office of Cannabis Policy, allowing them to work as caregivers and assistants within the state's medical marijuana program. This was the criminal playbook perfected. Used the cover of a legal license to operate an industrial-scale black market firm. The strategy allows the organization to launder its illegal product by mixing it into the legitimate supply chain, making it nearly impossible to trace. The indictment also revealed the brutal human cost of the operation. U.S. Attorney Leah Bay Foley stated the group built their enterprise off the backs of an illegal workforce, with charges including not just drug trafficking and money laundering, but also human smuggling. Furthermore, the investigation uncovered a sophisticated corporate structure designed to support the criminal enterprise. Chen, the alleged ringleader, had established a web of LLCs between 2022 and 2025 in states as far-flung as Washington, Montana, and Missouri for seemingly legitimate purposes like construction, transportation, and e-commerce. This corporate scaffolding provided the logistical and financial backbone for a criminal conglomerate that, as authorities now believe, is systematically cornering America's cannabis market from the shadows. While the heists were attacks on physical objects, the next wave of crimes targeted something far more abstract: the integrity of financial systems, the loopholes in corporate policy, and the trust of the most vulnerable. The Bitcoin seizure, the ghost in the machine. On September 30, 2025, a 7-year international investigation culminated in a London courtroom. As reported by the BBC, a Chinese national named Qian Zimin, known to her victims as the Goddess of Wealth, pleaded guilty, finally closing the book on a financial fraud of almost unimaginable scale. Between 2014 and 2017, she had masterminded a vast investment scheme in China, luring more than 128,000 people, from business professionals to retirees, to pour their life savings into her fraudulent enterprise. But the real story began after the initial theft. Jian became a digital ghost. She converted the stolen funds into 61,000 Bitcoin, a new and untraceable form of digital gold, and vanished from China using false documents. She resurfaced in the UK, where she and an accomplice, a Chinese takeaway worker named Jian Wen, began the colossal task of laundering the fortune. As the Crown Prosecution Service later revealed, their lifestyle transformed dramatically. They moved from a modest flat above a restaurant to a sprawling, multi-million-pound rented house in a wealthy North London suburb, attempting to anchor their digital wealth in the physical world by purchasing luxury properties in London and Dubai. For years, they operated in the shadows of the global financial system, but the Metropolitan Police, acting on a tip about the transfer of criminal assets, slowly unraveled the web. When they finally closed in, the seizure was staggering. The 61,000 Bitcoin were valued at over $6.7 billion or £5 billion, making it what authorities believe is the single largest cryptocurrency seizure in world history. The case exposed a new frontier of transnational crime, where fortunes can be stolen, digitized, and moved across borders with a few clicks, erasing their criminal origins in the anonymity of the blockchain. Preying on the elderly, the betrayal of trust. The final, and perhaps most cruel chapter of this fraud wave, unfolded in the quiet homes of elderly New Yorkers. In a public warning issued on July 11, 2025, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, detailed a disturbing pattern of predatory scams targeting the community's most vulnerable. The agency's announcement revealed the arrests of 3 Chinese nationals who were unlawfully present in the United States. The case of Jian Chen showed a particular brand of brazen audacity. On July 8th, he was arrested after successfully swindling a 63-year-old retired woman out of $42,000. Not satisfied, he was allegedly planning to meet the same victim to extract another $98,000 when Homeland Security agents apprehended him. His arrest followed that of Ri Hui Yan, who was caught on May 29th, attempting to take $20,000 from an elderly couple's savings, and Hui Chen, who had been taken into custody the previous October in a similar $40,000 scheme. These were not crimes of sophistication, but of pure, calculated cruelty. The perpetrators targeted the isolated and the trusting, turning their victims' hard-earned savings into their own personal gain. As one ICE official bluntly stated in the press release, in a rare display of official anger, it takes a real dirtbag to prey on our most vulnerable community members. The shockwaves of a systemic crisis. These crimes are the global symptoms of a deep internal crisis, the shockwaves of a collision between immense economic pressure and a profound moral vacuum within China. This has unleashed a new breed of transnational criminal enterprise, one that operates like an invasive species in the open ecosystems of the West. It exploits legal cannabis markets, the arteries of global shipping, and the trust of the elderly, turning the West's greatest strengths, its openness and rule of law, into critical vulnerabilities. The cold calculus required to trade an endangered fish for fentanyl is the same that justifies a nuclear plot or a multi-billion-dollar fraud. It is the logic of profit stripped of all human consequence. The challenge for the international community is no longer just policing its borders. It is recognizing that the foundations of trust and order are being systematically dismantled for cash, and the architects of this decay are already inside the gates.